What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and we're changing things up a little bit this week, all right? It's week 7. Things are getting a little bit stale just in terms of making the videos, in terms of the algorithm. So we're going to shock the algorithm a little bit here, give you guys some different content this week just to experiment a little. And then also the guy who does the editing for the matchup videos where I have like 2 teams on both sides, the over-under over the top of my head. He's busy this week. He'll be back next week. Do not worry. So I decided today we would talk about 5 players skyrocketing up my rest of season rankings, because every single Wednesday I come out and drop rest of season rankings for the patrons at about 7 p.m. Eastern. So I decided we would look at all the players who have moved to the highest in my rest of season rankings from week 6 to week 7 and just kind of talk about what has changed and how I view them moving forward. So let's not waste any time. If you enjoy, make sure to go down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I mean, I know I'm pretty cool. My nitty bag.
Now, for our first player who is skyrocketing up my rankings right now, we got Alvin Kamara. And he was, last week for me, my 30th overall ranked player and my RB10. And he's now my 19th overall ranked player as my RB7. So that's about what? We're not talking ADPs at this point in the season, but like a round of value and 3 running back spots. And I do truly believe at this point, just given how bad running back has been, Kamara should be right in that conversation with any running back not named Saquon, Eckler, McCaffrey. His usage in his last 2 games since coming back from that rib injury has been amazing. He is averaging 21 carries and 7.5 targets per game over that span as the RB6, averaging 20.9 points per game despite not even scoring a touchdown. He is a volume machine, and I know a lot of people are scared, okay, these games are with Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston's going to come back, he's going to push it downfield, you're not going to get as many checkdowns. I mean, regardless, he's still getting 21 carries per game, but his splits with and without Jameis Winston are pretty much identical. He has less yards and less touches with Jameis Winston than with other quarterbacks over the last 2 years. He has 9 games with Jameis Winston over the last 2 years, 8 games without him, both around 17 points per game. Again, less yards, less touches, but he makes up for it with touchdown efficiency because when Jameis is quarterback, the offense runs better, which is good for everybody. You also have the idea here that Jarvis and Michael Thomas have been hurt pretty much the last, 3, 4, 5 weeks, opening up a lot of opportunity here for Alvin Kamara. Neither of them seem all that close to returning. I think Michael Thomas is a little bit closer here. Regardless, though, if Kamara stays healthy and this usage, or even like 85% of this usage sticks, he should be a top 8 running back rest of season at worst. Now, our next guy here is Darrell Henderson. And he was last week my 99th ranked player as my RB37, and he's now my 73rd overall player as my RB25. So that's 12 running back spots, about 25 spots of overall just in terms of my flex rankings. And we talked about Henderson in this Rams backfield in the top 10 lessons learned video from Monday, but I wanted to give some more thoughts on my expectations for him moving forward and how I value him rest of season. Because I think there's a lot of guys out there, including me, who I have, probably my most rostered player is Darrell Henderson, and it's been not frustrating because everything you've got out of him to this point has been essentially free for what you paid for him, but it has been, should I start him this week? Can I not start him this week? Is Cam Akers the lead guy now? So I sort of want to clear up how I view this backfield moving forward. We have Cam Akers sitting out week 6 due to personal reasons. It seems like he could get traded, he could get benched. There's a lot of weird things going on with Cam Akers here, but what ended up happening was Darrell Henderson was the lead back last week. He had 71% of the snaps, and he had 15 of 25 running back opportunities, and he had 12 carries. If that usage sticks, which doesn't even seem like a lot, he should easily be a running back to rest of season. We have a sample size over these last 2 years here in 2022 and 2021 where Darrell Henderson, in games with 10 or more carries, again, he had just 12 carries last week. In games with more than 10 carries, Darrell Henderson over the last 2 seasons is averaging 15.85 points per game, which would put him at the RB10 this season just because of how much scoring is down right now. And you can speculate on whether or not Akers returns to the Rams or if they add free agents or trade for a running back, and that's why I'm giving him cushion. I think, again, the lead back on the Rams, I do expect this offense to be better, right? Sean McVay has never had an offense that has been truly, truly awful outside of like Goff's last year. I think that the offense should rebound here, and that's why he really should, rest of season, flirt with like RB15, RB20-ish area. But that's why I'm giving him that cushion, putting him at RB25 for now. But if this usage sticks coming out of the bye and then after the trade deadline, he's very easily a top 15 to 20 type of guy. All right, I had to take the sweatshirt off. I don't know what it is about when it becomes cold out that like you start turning the heat on and then it just gets like way too hot. I don't know. There's something going on with the radiators in the house, or just kind of how turning the heat on is. Once you get to this time of the year, the basement just tends to get hot. All right, so we're back in our element, back in our summer vibes when we didn't have the AC down here. But our third player here, Justin Fields. Now, don't look now, but Justin Fields has actually been startable these last 2 weeks as the QB 10 on 18.2 points per game. I ended up moving him up from my QB 23, and I divide each position into tiers on these rest of season rankings. I had him in tier 10 as QB 23. I moved him up to QB 19 in tier 8. So the question is, what has changed? And what has changed is the Bears' offensive environment. They went from minus 17.4% pass rate over expectation. So what percentage of the time are they passing over what they're expected to pass? And minus 17.4% means that they are not trusting Fields and they are just running the ball even when they shouldn't be. So like down 2 scores or 3rd and long, those kinds of situations. Now the last 2 weeks, they're only minus 6.6%. So that is like a 60% decrease, but it's not exactly pass happy. But it takes them from stone last to Giants, Lions, Jets area, which is probably fine. It's a much better environment. And on top of that, they're already 3rd in neutral pace. So they're passing more, they're running more plays. And what that leads to is a more efficient offense where they go from 28th in expected points added per play, which is EPA per play. I mention that all the time, and I get comments, what the hell is EPA? Expected points added essentially is just a better way to talk about an offense's efficiency than like points per game or even like DVOA. It takes a lot of context into account, like field position, sort of outside factors, and pretty much what it does is what are you adding on top of what is expected per play on offense. So like the top teams in EPA per play are like the Chiefs and the Bills. They were 28th in weeks 1 through 4. Then they were 17th the last 2 weeks, which it's not an elite offense, but it's better than bottom 5 in the NFL, right? They've been about an average offense, which is really all we need for Justin Fields, because this is where the magic happens. He leads the NFL. Now, shout out to 444 for this data in scrambles per game. And not only does he lead the NFL in scrambles per game, he leads by a wide margin. We have legit Konami code QBs up here. Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. And he leads the entire NFL with 5.3 scrambles per game. I want to say that is a 1.5 scramble per game difference from him to Daniel Jones. And as you can see, the rest of them are all condensed with like 0.8 between Mac Jones and Daniel Jones. By the way, Mac Jones' 3 scrambles per game is really surprising to me. Now, because of that, again, remember, he went from a stone worst, like awful environment to just an average one. And just being in an average environment, plus what he can do on the ground, makes him a viable quarterback streamer. Now, I wouldn't go out there and add him right now. He has 2 tough matchups. He's going to be on the road in New England, on the road in Dallas. But from weeks 9 through 11, he gets the Dolphins, the Lions, and the Falcons. These are defenses allowing the 2nd, 6th, and 8th most points to quarterbacks in fantasy. So just keep an eye out. Maybe grab him in deeper leagues. Maybe just, put the little, what do they have like on Sleeper? They have like the star thing. Star him, keep it tucked away. Week 9 comes around, grab him for your squad. Or maybe he comes out here and, dots up the Patriots and is an every week starter moving forward. Now, our 4th player is going to be Elijah Mitchell. And Elijah Mitchell should be on everybody's radar at this point. He was, for me, RB50 last week. Now he's RB38 for a mixture of reasons. And it's really just that we keep inching closer and closer to him returning. According to 444 here, he's projected to come back in week 10. So that is just 3 more weeks. That is week 7, week 8, week 9. And the minute he comes back, he is going to be in every week RB2, which are really tough to come by at this point. Now, a lot of us out here have hero RB teams, all that good stuff. I will say it's pretty hilarious. I actually picked up Elijah Mitchell. I want to say, you guys remember how we were doing the high stakes teams and those high stakes drafts? I think he was dropped in 2 of those places. I was able to snag him up, tuck him away on the bench, and he'll be an RB2 starter for us on hero RB teams in a few weeks, which is going to be amazing. Now, the reason that I'm so confident that he's going to be an RB2 right away, and the reason why I'm inching him up my rankings is because the current running backs on the Niners are giving Shanahan nothing. This was their game against the Falcons last week. Jeff Wilson, 3.6 yards per carry, 25 yards total. Tevin Coleman, 0.8 yards per carry. They're getting absolutely nothing from the run game, 28 yards from their running backs last week. And I have to imagine that Shanahan is longing for Mitchell back. And that's the reason here. If Jeff Wilson was still like balling out and being an every week startable running back, then it'd be like, okay, Elijah Mitchell comes back, and they wouldn't have a ton of urgency to get him back in the lineup. But it feels like now more than ever, they really, really need Elijah Mitchell in there. I imagine the minute he comes back, he should see 15 plus touches. If I can go out there, buy him for cheap off of a team that's struggling, I would absolutely love to do that. Every week, he's just going to keep creeping up from RB38 and probably settle in around like RB20 to 25 area. Then our last tight end is somebody I really wanted to cover because it felt like, well, I recorded the waiver video on Monday, right? So before the game, I want to give some due respect to Greg Dulcich, all right? I have been Team Albert O this entire time. I loved Albert O. He has essentially flopped this year where the Broncos staff has thought like Eric Saubert is better than him, which I vehemently disagree with. But Greg Dulcich has a lot of promise right now. And I don't even love rookie tight ends. I think betting on rookie tight ends is never that great. But Greg Dulcich's Monday night game was very impressive. Now, him as a prospect, he is from UCLA. He goes round 3. He's 6'4", 243 pounds. He's fine, right? He's a fine athlete. He's not an elite athlete. I like having elite athletes or mega producers. He's not a mega producer. He's not an elite athlete. He's fine. He's fine all around, right? You got breakout age 70th percentile. For whatever reason, College Dominator isn't up there in terms of percentile. Around like 60th to 70th percentile athlete across the board. His comp is Kobe Fleener, which is probably fair just as like a meh, like white move tight end. But he comes out here on Monday in his first game off of IR and gets tight end 1 usage. And that's not even by exaggeration. Now, this is Andrew Cooper, somebody I've mentioned on the channel a bunch of times, somebody who I believe is somewhat of a tight end whisperer out here in these streets. And the things we're looking for in tight ends, or just top 12 tight ends, is 80% or more route participation, lining up at wide receiver, not pass blocking, having a high A dot, and having athleticism. He checks pretty much all those boxes. He ran 81% of the routes on Monday. He lined up at wide receiver for 61% of his snaps, which is really impressive. He didn't pass block once, and he had a 12-yard A dot. He also scored a touchdown and was literally usable in that week. Like I said, not a mega athlete, but he's athletic enough that he's not like a minus athlete. He doesn't run a 4.9. 4.7, that'll get it done. So I have him right now as my tight end 19, but if this continues literally just one more week, if he can put up 80% of the routes one more week, and this usage sticks in any way, shape, or form, pretty easily here, I'll have him as like a top 10 to 15 tight end that you can stream for the rest of the year. Now, that is going to do it for us today, fellas. Again, if you are interested in my rest of season rankings that come out every single Wednesday, that will be on the Patreon, on patreon.com/Ron Stewart. Again, I'm just messing around on here, or this week. If you guys prefer the matchup videos, the ranking videos, all that good stuff, we will go back to them. I kind of just want to see how the algorithm reacts to these videos. I also just want, change things up. It's week 7. Views are going down. Might as well mess around and just sort of try some new things, mess around with the schedule, all that good stuff. Now, again, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. That'll be down below in the description. It'll be down below in the comments. As always, I appreciate you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.
I got the juice, I got the juice.
Channel, Chatham's on. Foolies glad I'm home. Even my haters kinda glad I'm on. Rest in peace to my vagabond. Rapper, song, singer, suspended, subpoena from Mr. Meaner.